many of you who are watching this video plan on moving to Florida, and some of you want to buy a house. You're dead set on buying a house. So I wanted to make this video so you could think about all the things you need to think about when moving to Florida, especially if you're not familiar with Florida and the things that can happen. And if you've never bought a house before, you definitely want to watch this video. And you might be a person who have bought a house sight unseen and had no problem, but that's a rare thing. There are too many horror stories to even begin to tell you about people who have bought houses out of state, had a rough time of it. So I'm going to do my best here to give you some tips and ideas of what to look for when buying a house. It doesn't matter if you're on the low end of the income spectrum or on the high end. These tips and ideas are for everybody. So one, I personally do not recommend you buying a house from out of state without seeing it. Unless A, you have a job, you know where you're going to be. B, you know the area, you know the neighborhoods. C, that you have somebody here that will walk through the house for you. I would not rely on anybody to tell you that the house is great, except for your own eyeballs, because the internet shows great pictures and what you see in person may not be what you see in person. Let's just say you got a job and you know the area you're going to be in. I still highly recommend that you rent an Airbnb, an apartment. It's hard to get an apartment for just a month, but that's why I recommend. And I'm going to be using Airbnb when I travel, so I talk about it quite a bit. But there's HomeAway and there's Flipkey, there's a bunch of other ones where you could just rent for 1 month, and it might be a little bit more for the month to rent, but usually the utilities are included, so you don't have to worry about changing utilities and internet and all that business. You just come so you have time to look around. And if you don't want to do that, you can find a hotel for 2 weeks and look around and see the houses for yourself. But it will take you more than 2 weeks to find a house, most likely the one that you really want. If you don't have a job and you're moving down here and you don't even know where you're going to end up, definitely don't buy a house. Don't think, oh, I want to live here, I'm going to find a job here. It doesn't always work out that way. So, and if you're retired, of course, you have a steady stream of income, so you're going to be fine. But again, you want to see the house in person. So some of the first questions that you want to ask when it comes to looking for a house, first make sure you got a good realtor helping you out. But even if you're going to go without a realtor, which I don't recommend, but if you do, and say you bought houses before and you know what you're doing, that's fine. But one, check to see if the home you want is in a flood zone. The reason I say this is because your insurance is very high even if you're not in a flood zone. And if you're in a flood zone, it's going to be even higher. But here's the thing. Even though you're not in a flood zone, let's say you find a house that's not in a flood zone, so you're like, oh, I'm fine. But then a hurricane comes through and you get flooded, you don't have flood insurance, you're not going to be covered. This happened in Katrina. For those of you who followed it very carefully, I know I did. I was glued to the TV. It was horrible, just horrible. And there were some houses that were not in a flood zone. They did not have flood insurance. And even though they believe that the wind caused the damage, the insurance company said it was the water surge, and so they would not cover it. They would not cover their, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 houses, $1 million houses. They were like, oh, we're not going to cover it because you're not in a flood zone. You didn't pay for flood insurance. So, something to think about. If you decide to buy in a flood zone or not a flood zone, you may want to get flood insurance anyhow. And when you're buying a house, if you have cash, you do not have to get house insurance. Some people prefer to keep that money every month. But if you go that route, make sure you really do set aside a large chunk of money in case, because you just don't know. We've been here 7 years. We've not had a hurricane come through. We've had a couple of big storms, a tropical storm and a depression that came through, and it's knocked trees down, and for some people it took some shingles off, and small tornadoes and ripped, the top half of their house off. So things can happen. So make sure you have cash on the side if you decide not to have insurance, because it is expensive. If you do get a loan, you have to have insurance. The other thing that people need to think about is sometimes they say, oh, you're throwing your money away if you're renting. But if you can't afford a house, you can't afford it. So I want you to think very carefully. And you're thinking, but Melody, the rent is like double the amount of my house payment. Well, is it? This is something I want you to please, please think about. The age of the house. How old is it? When was the roof replaced? How old is the air conditioner? Does it have a septic tank? How old is it and when was it replaced? Water tank, electricity. The older the house is, the more repairs. So you're thinking it's going to be cheaper to own a house, and often it can be. But you have to make sure you pick the right house. Make sure the roof is at least newer. Because if it's old, your insurance company will make you replace it like they did on our house. I thought I had another year or two on it before I needed to replace it. But when we bought it some years ago, I was like, okay, I'll just replace it when it's time. So I started getting quotes on roofs, and oh my God, the prices have gone through the roof. They blamed it on the oil and this and that. I know many of you say, oh, I'll do my own roof. Well, that's fine if you can, and Rick probably could have, but I didn't want a 50-plus-year-old guy on my roof for a few months, a redhead being burnt in the sun to a crisp and possibly falling off of the roof, and after working 12 hours a day or longer. So that wasn't going to be an option. So we had to pay someone an arm and a leg to get a roof on our house, or the insurance would be canceled. And you know what? They canceled it anyways because they were just canceling people for any reason. So we had to go through another company. But we couldn't have switched to another company anyways unless we had that new roof. So no matter what, a new roof had to be put on. Make sure you have lots of extra money or very good credit if you want to get a loan to get a roof or something like that. That's why I say it's important to have cash or a good FICO score if you're going to borrow. And I don't like the idea of borrowing, but sometimes people have to do it. So then that's why you need the FICO score. And you can't just say, well, I'm not going to put the new roof on. Well, fine, but the mortgage company can call in your loan if you don't have insurance on it. You see, it's not your house, technically, if you have a mortgage on it. Something to think about. I know you think it's your house, but it's not. Not until you pay it off, and even then, you got property taxes. Something to think about. How much are the property taxes? So make sure you find out before you buy the house, before you put a bid on the house. Find out how much will the insurance cost you, how much are the property taxes. Again, how old is the house? When was the last time the electrical was put up? If you're buying a house that's older, we're in Florida where it's humid, and electrical wires that are old will need to be replaced. I have no idea how much that would be, but eventually it's going to happen. So again, have a good FICO score, some good credit, or cash to do repairs. The other thing that can go wrong is a hot water tank, and that's not too expensive. I know a lot of you can do things yourself, and Rick has done a lot. Thank God he's a MacGyver, can fix and do anything, but often he didn't have the time to do things. Even if he did, things cost money. Materials and whatnot can cost a lot of money. The other thing down here is it gets hot. Hot, hot, hot. And it's not just the air is hot, the sun beats down and can put a hole through your skin. That's how it is if you're out in midday in the sun and you have white skin like me or Rick, with the red hair. You got to be careful. That hot sun will do some damage to your roof and make it not last so long. But your air conditioning is running pretty much most of the year. In the winter, I think I put on the heat maybe 5 nights total, if that. I don't even remember this year, maybe 3, 4, 5 nights, and it's all electric. I don't know of any houses that have propane. If there is, I don't think we have natural gas here. I don't know of anybody who does. Maybe up north in northern Florida, I have no idea, but down here in southwest Florida, everybody has electric, and that includes your heat. That's how you heat your house, with electricity. Air conditioning units are very expensive. I think it's because the type of air conditioning unit it is. It's different than what we had up north. So it was a lot of money to replace it. So if you're finding this great deal of a house and you're like, oh, this is so great, and you afford the roof, a new air conditioning, water tanks, electricity if it goes wrong, garage door maybe that needs repair, windows, that's another thing that windows will need to be fixed or replaced. Many houses were built with windows that are not hurricane windows, and if you could afford it, I highly recommend putting hurricane windows. They will be more, but it does help with your insurance rates, and it just makes you feel safer, not just for high winds and hurricanes, but it kind of feels like nobody can break into your house. Now, people worry about crime, and crime happens anywhere in this country anymore. You're not safe anywhere. So it doesn't matter if you're in the best of neighborhoods, the crime will still happen. If you live in the country, crime will still happen. Right here in our own town where it's safe and we have kids and families, there was a carjacking right across the street from the police station. So at a Walgreens, it could happen anywhere. So my point is, it just feels good to have extra security whenever you can on your home when you have it. We actually put a security gate, one of those wrought iron fences, so when I open my door, I have at least that, so someone's not stepping into my face. They're, away. It's nice to have dogs too, they bark. Well, that's a whole nother video, I suppose, about security. Location is important. You want to know, is it a place where you want to be? And if you have kids, does it have a good school system? Is it where you want to live? Is it far from school? Keep in mind, traffic is pretty bad anywhere you go in this state. Maybe not inland, but pretty much everywhere traffic's bad. So you want to live as close as possible to wherever your kids' schools are or where you work, so you don't have to spend your days and hours in traffic. Also, if you have kids, even if they're healthy right now, here's something I learned, that most doctors that in this area will not see your kid unless they're a pediatrician. And then if you need a specialist, we had to go all the way up to All Children's Hospital in St. Petersburg because there weren't any specialists down here. And that's changing because I see now that they're building offices for doctors, specialists to see kids, so they don't have to drive all the way up to St. Petersburg, because that's over an hour, 20 minutes, I'm not sure, and that's if traffic's good. So if you do have a kid that has some health issues that needs a specialist, you want to be near one of the hospitals. And the only one I know is here in St. Petersburg, All Children's Hospital, Johns Hopkins, and someone mentioned in Orlando there's a children's hospital, and I would imagine Miami, and I would imagine the East Coast, up the East Coast, but I really don't know. I just know what's in my area. Keep that in mind. You want to at least be near doctors or hospitals or emergency rooms if something were to happen. What's nice about our town, since we moved here, they have a helicopter now, so when there's a car accident on the highway and they need to fly you, they fly you up to St. Pete's or Sarasota Memorial Hospital. That's not too far. It's like a half an hour, but with traffic and everything, it'll probably take you about 45 minutes from where we are, so it's still kind of far. We do have an emergency room here, so again, if they need to fly you or take you by ambulance, that might be a little faster. And the other thing I know, some of you will say, well, I could fix everything in the house and you don't get a permit. You want to make sure you get permits whenever you do something, because one day there's a chance that you're probably going to sell the house. When the buyer is getting an inspection on the house, they're going to want to make sure that things were done properly. So you might have issues if you are doing things in your house that didn't have permits. So get your permits if you're doing things on your own. I know some of you are totally against it and don't want to do it, but you'll have problems when you go sell the house at times. At least down here, they're very strict with the permits. After all that, you've decided you've got the money to do any repairs, and it's time to buy the house. You're going to need money to get an inspection on the house, especially if you're getting a loan. You must get an inspection, and I think you should not buy a house unless you do a full-fledged inspection. They'll check for things that you might not see when you're walking through, like mold. Mold's huge down here because of the humidity, especially older homes. You want to make sure you don't have mold, otherwise if you buy the house, you're going to have that professionally taken care of. Or the big thing was asbestos. So that's not something to play around with. Many houses that were built around 2003, 4, 5, 6 had Chinese drywall, and that could cause a lot of trouble with health. And not only that, it could destroy your air conditioner and other things in your home. And if you buy a house with asbestos, hopefully that they find it during your inspection. Something you should ask before you even put a bid on the house. And they're supposed to tell you if it has it or not. But I would ask, what year was this house built? Has there ever been an inspection to see if there's asbestos in the house? Because you hate to pay for an inspection and find out there's Chinese drywall, and then decide to buy the house, and then you're going to be shocked at how much it costs to have it fixed, because you're not supposed to, or not allowed, I think, to do it yourself. You have to actually hire professionals to do it, because if you don't, you could end up, with it in your lungs, and, it's not a good thing. And also what you're going to need is a wind mitigation inspection. That's just another thing on your roof to make sure it can withstand hurricanes and high winds. If you don't have it, your insurance rate will be doubled. A double on something that's already very expensive is not good either. It's just another expense that we want to make sure you know about. Also, septic tanks, they only last so long, especially down here. It's I don't know if it's because the ground is sand or because of all the water we can get, I'm not sure, but they don't last more than about 20 years. Some, yeah, sure, last longer, some less. You don't want to see how old that septic tank is. And then you have to choose if you want a house with city water or well water. Some people think well water's free. It's, cheap and free, so you prefer well water. From what I hear, it costs about the same to treat the well water as getting city water. Now, I have also heard people with well water from here. Out north, you got different type of water, but the water here, people say it has destroyed their pipes, even with the treatment. Of course, over time, but quicker than city water. Some will disagree with me on that, so I guess it depends on your experience. Maybe it depends on your block or where you live exactly, because it could be very different from, here to several miles away. I don't know. We went with city water. We wanted to make sure that we got city water. The other thing, when we bought our house, we wanted it on a main street. We didn't want to be in the back because we didn't feel it was as safe with all the woods. I know if you like country, that's nice, but at the same time, there has been in the past, I don't know if it's changed at all, but when we first moved here, air conditioners were being stolen with people living in them. And not just here, but like all over Florida, because there were so many foreclosures, like lots during the crash. So there was lots of empty houses. So I think these people would just go and break into houses, stealing copper and air conditioners, and if you bought a house, maybe they didn't know you lived there and they stole it while you were sleeping. And so I don't think we have that problem now. I haven't heard of any, but that was something that was, news in town when I first moved in, about the houses that were way in the back. So we got a house more out on a main road, but it's not real busy because we're towards like the end of the busy road, so it's not bad at all. That's something else to think about when you're looking for the house. Make sure you're near a highway. On the west coast here, we have Route 41. It's called Tamiami Trail, or there's I-75. We're right in between the two, which is great because a lot of the shopping is on 41, so you will be going up and down 41 to go to restaurants and shopping and whatnot. And what's nice about jumping on 75, if you want to go to Fort Myers or go up to Tampa or just whatever, you got that highway as well. It's nice to be between those two highways. So I hope this has helped you decide if you can afford a house in the first place. So just because they say it's going to be $700 a month and you're thinking, well, rent is $1,200 a month, don't forget your taxes, your insurance, the upkeep, and then if you do get a loan to put a new roof or whatnot, that's, maybe another couple $100 a month or whatever. If you have plenty of cash to do repairs, not get yourself into debt, further, I, say go for the house if, that's something you want to do. So for those of you who are still in the working years of your life, renting is not a bad thing for a year to look around. But again, I really still highly recommend renting 1 month or getting a hotel, even if you're going to just rent, because apartments are not all equal. Some have mold, some are in bad neighborhoods, some are they have bad reviews. So if you could find, I suppose, an apartment online with lots of 5-star, 4-star reviews, then you might be pretty safe. Check to see when it was built. Make sure there's not any mold issues, because you can get sick. I know I'm highly allergic to mold, so that was a big worry for me. I had to make sure that there wasn't mold in the apartment we got, because we did look around after we moved into the apartments we were at. I loved it, but I just wanted to see what else was there. And I was lucky because I had my brothers find that apartment for us. But I looked around at other apartments, and as soon as I walked in, you could smell the mold and the mildew. It was just oh no. And they were charging quite a bit. And on the internet, it looked beautiful. Now, 7 years later, I could say the internet has gotten much better with reviews, and that's very helpful. So thank God for that. So that might help out. But if you don't have a job, again, you may not want to get that apartment and just rent a month somewhere until you have your job, until you know where you want to be. That's a tricky one. You're going to have to do what's best for you. I can't tell you what to do. I just could tell you what I would do. Now, of course, if you move into an area like Tampa or Sarasota, you'll find a job one way or the other. But if you move to a remote location, I'm a little more worried for people, as far as finding jobs if you're counting on it. I hate to be stuck in a year's lease and not be able to get a job, and you find one and it's 3 hours away and you're stuck and you got to pay the whole year. Apartments are usually not very friendly about letting you just get out of your lease. Well, I hope this has helped you a little bit. I know every little bit can help. If you have questions and you're new to my channel, I have lots of videos on moving to Florida. If you go on my main YouTube channel, you will see the different playlists I have, and one is called Florida Life. So just have a marathon. Probably get a little bit of information out of each video. Get your notebook out, take notes. I hope they all help you. Like I said, even a little bit really goes a long way when you're moving out of state and you don't know where to start. I'm hoping they have helped some people. Well, thanks for watching. Thumbs up. Please subscribe. Don't forget to share. It really helps us grow. And don't forget to live a passionate life.